So in society, the deaf, who are people who can't hear well or at all, are put at a severe disadvantage because a large part of being a part of American society is communication. And when you're deaf, most of the time, a lot of them can't speak because they can't hear themselves to make the correct pronunciations or even close to what we think is the right word. And a majority of them can't lip read because that goes right along with being able to hear the word and knowing how it's pronounced. With it being extremely difficult for them to be a part of society, as people that can hear, something that we can do to help them be more involved in society and more comfortable with being included in like hearing activities is we can be more open-minded and welcoming to them, and maybe even be a little proactive and look into deaf culture. A good website that you can go to read about deaf culture is deafwebsites.com, exactly how it sounds. In everyday life, the deaf face problems like, let's say that they're speeding and they get pulled over and the police officer doesn't know. Well, he's not expecting to encounter someone that's deaf and can't hear, so that automatically puts them at a disadvantage. There's an article on the Huffington Post about a man who was pulled over by a police officer, and he was, I think, tased because he was trying to sign that he couldn't understand him, and the officer saw it as aggressive because he was moving his hands really quickly and rapidly trying to get his point across, but he was tased before he could do that. In medical emergencies, the deaf may not be able to communicate with the doctors, like in the ER, because they aren't provided interpreters, or they can't get an interpreter, which causes a series of problems, like if they're trying to communicate what they're allergic to or get hold of any family members. Less serious problems include the deaf being denied jobs because of like bias and the inability to hear. The people that would hire them don't want to deal with the buffer trying to kind of, I want to say initiate, but it's not the right word, like into the job and work with all that would come with that for them to be able to do the job efficiently. In order to help with these problems, people can be more patient and accommodating. There's a video by Sarah Snow and Jules Demeron that includes a bunch of deaf and hard of hearing people, and it's basically just them explaining how a little bit more of what it's like to be deaf and part of society. And the best advice that they said that they could give was that you just come up, say hello, and act like they're a normal person. A lot of the ways that they can help with like communication is normal pen and paper, or even like taking out your phone and typing out what you want to say. Don't be quick to judge. The phrase deaf and dumb is not a thing. It's some of the things that we take for granted, like the sound a bag makes when you open it, like a chip bag. They don't know what makes it sound because that's not something they've experienced before, and it's not something that they have to deal with. If we were to help the deaf become more integrated into society, everyone would be more benefited, because not only would we know more about everyone else's culture, but there would be less miscommunication, less problems, not as much medical issues that arise from not being able to hear, and the just general miscommunication that happens. So if the hearing, those of us that hear just a little bit better, we're just a little bit more open-minded and welcoming to the deaf community, maybe even be proactive and look up information, we could close the gap, or at least a good majority of the gap, between the deaf and those of us that could hear, and that would better society as a whole.
1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6.